Welcome to Radio Antioch. This video is an outreach of Antioch Tabernacle Ministries.
So when they brought in too much manna and they tried to keep it overnight, it started to stink. Lesson number 6 is disobeying the Lord is not fruitful, and it may have consequences you don't expect. Every morning, everyone gathered as much as he needed, and when the sun grew hot, it melted away. On the 6th day, they gathered twice as much, 2 omers for each person. And the leaders of the community came and reported to Moses, and he said, "This is what the Lord commanded. Tomorrow is to be a day of rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. So bake what you want and boil what the rest and save whatever is left and keep it till morning." So they saved it till morning as Moses commanded, and it did not stink and did not get maggots in it. Now, interesting point. What happened on the Sabbath destroys any argument that this, the quail flying over might have been just some weird thing. Okay, you might have a flock of quail come through. But the fact that they would go 6 days, and on the Sabbath day, the rules changed. It's like the manna didn't go bad on that day. The maggots didn't hatch on that day. Okay? That's what tells you that things are very, very different. And it didn't stink. And he said, "Eat it today because it's a Sabbath. You will not find any on the ground. 6 days are you to gather it, but on the 7th day there will not be any." And here's another thought. On the day that wasn't the day before the Sabbath, they could try all they want, and they couldn't gather 2 containers. But now they can. How many think that the Lord was trying to teach them the idea of taking a day to focus, to spend with the Lord, to recharge, and to hear and to walk with your God? Okay? He was giving them, this was even before the law was given. Even before the law had been given. Because I'll tell you, the Sabbath goes all the way back to Eden. What did it say? On the 7th day, God rested and it was good. Okay? So this idea goes all the way back to the creation of the world. This is before the law of Moses. The idea of taking a day to spend with your God and to not labor is an idea older than the law. It goes all the way back to Eden. Lesson number 7, it's important to the Lord that you take a Sabbath day. Furthermore, if you will trust Him, He'll make provision so that you don't have to work on that day. And if you're a preacher and you work on this Sunday, because the Sabbath, the Jewish Sabbath is on Saturday. It's from Friday night to Saturday night. We as Christians have the tradition of meeting on the first day of the week on Sunday. Well, that came about during Christian times. Some people argue we should do things on Saturday. I don't know. It's up to you. But I talk to preachers sometimes. I say, when do you take your Sabbath? Because if I spend all my Sunday mornings and Saturday nights preaching, when is my Sabbath? Well, I usually take my Sabbath on Sunday afternoon. Frequently, I will go for walks and hikes. Especially if I preach that morning, that afternoon I will take a nap, then I will get up and I will go for a walk, and I will go get alone with God. Because you have to take that time. Even if you're someone like a preacher or a deacon or a Sunday school student, teacher that teaches on Sunday, you still need to take that time. You see, it's all great that we spend our time serving God. Thank God for Sunday school teachers, but you got to take that Sabbath. Now, some of the people went out on that 7th day and they found none. And the Lord said, "How long will you refuse to listen?" He's like, what we have here is a failure to communicate. It's like, how long will you not listen? It's like if you want to go walk in the desert, and I imagine that morning the sun was particularly hot. Okay, these guys are going, I don't see any manna. Do you see any manna? No, I don't either. It's awfully hot today. You see, the Lord wants you to fellowship with Him. The Lord will provide time for you to fellowship with Him. But you got to be obedient. See, the Lord is intentional. He intends for you to do this. But you have to be intentional too. You have to decide to take your Sabbath time. You have to decide to take your prayer time and your time with God. Sometimes I think that the people who went out that morning did it because it was the habit. It's what we do every morning. We go out and we get stuff from God. Well, how many people come to church on Sunday because it's your habit to go get stuff from God, but it's just a habit? You see, it's interesting. Those people went out just like they did every other day, but suddenly there wasn't anything. If you just do things out of habit, there's not much fruit in it. A lot of the people that come to our churches are showing up expecting to be entertained. They're showing up expecting to have nice music and sing a hymn and have an animated guy, hopefully better than I am, preach to them and entertain them. But you know what? If all your church is habit, then you're just like these guys. You're going out, you're going through the motions. Yep, I'm going out to get from God. But you're coming back just as empty and missing the manna of God as those people were. Because you're playing with habits and legalism. I got to go to church, but I'm not really expecting anything, and I'm not really expecting God to show up, and it's just the habit I do. Some of the people that come aren't even saved. They just go because their wife goes, and they don't want to fight. But you know what? These are the people that don't get fed. They don't get the manna from heaven. They don't get the nourishment. They might get a little bit here and there, but those people didn't get the feed. They didn't get the feeding they needed. The fact that the manna stopped every Sabbath day and then started back up the next day of the week, there's no doubt in anyone's mind that this was a miracle. Okay? There's no doubt. Not only was God showing them, every day, come to me for food, but then he says, now, here's the Sabbath day. And that went on for 40 years. It says the manna didn't stop until they came into the promised land. Okay? Lesson number 9 is the Lord has provided signs for us who will notice that he is God and that he is still in control. Okay? Sometimes you need the fact that the manna stops to remind you that it's God's timing. And sometimes you need to see the manna start again when you realize, I've eaten all the manna from the day before, and I'm out, and I really need that manna to start back up. Nice little reminder. It's like, okay, this is the time you spend with me. There's no manna today. And then the next morning, it's like, okay, here's the provision. Okay? For 40 years, that people came to know the Lord will provide. Each person has to do it. Think about that. Each person of that generation had to go out because you couldn't get enough or too little. Everybody had to be part of it.
Thank you for joining us today on Radio Antioch. You can visit us on the web at www.antiochtabernacle.org. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you. If Radio Antioch has been an encouragement to you, you can help support us by donating online on our website or by mailing to P.O. Box 741, Antioch, Illinois 60002. Donations are tax deductible in the United States. Thanks again, and may the Lord richly bless you.